Hey guys, welcome back. It has not been a while. I put out a video about a week ago, but in the interim, I have been trying out a new strategy that I've been enjoying quite a lot, and I wanted to kind of share it with everyone. Instead of making a full-blown video going through an entire league, I'm just going to walk through a single game I played that really highlights some of the card choices and how I think they are actually powerful enough to see play in Legacy. So again, I'm still on the See the Truth plan. I'm trying to break this card. Again, it seems very powerful. The front half gets the best of the top three cards of your library, and then if you cast it from outside of your hand, you get to draw 3 cards instead. So this deck has 2 ways to do that. The first is with Snapcaster Mage, very classic, just Snapcaster, use flashback, draw 3 cards. But then the other one is this card from Dominaria. So it was printed in 2018, so it's not old, but it's not new either. But it's called Precognition Field. So it's a 4-mana enchantment. You get to look at the top card of your library at any time, and then you can cast instants and sorcery spells from the top of your library. And then it has an extra ability at the bottom. You can pay 3 mana to exile the top card of your library, which does sometimes come up when you have lands on top and you don't need them. So obviously, if See the Truth is on top of your library and you have Precognition Field out, you get to cast it off your library, draw 3 cards. And so basically I wanted to find enough synergies to make this card good enough to play in your deck. And so I decided it works pretty well with Counterbalance, just like getting to know the top card of your library every time. And then also it works incredibly well with Mystic Sanctuary, because Mystic Sanctuary, you put the card on top of your deck, and then at that point you can just cast it. So it kind of is an upgrade to Mystic Sanctuary. It almost like puts the card in your hand at that point instead of on top of your library, which is a huge upgrade, obviously. I think the one downside of this card is that you have to play a lot of islands, and if you overload on non-basics, then your mana gets shaky, you're vulnerable to Wasteland, and it also means your Astrolabes might sometimes not be able to be cast, if you draw like 3 non-basics in your opening hand. So I'm basically playing a blue-white list with a couple small splashes in the sideboard, because I don't want to stretch my mana too thin. So I don't really want to play things like Uro or Abrupt Decay, which does have its downsides, but I'm hoping that this energy kind of makes up for it. Either way, this is the list, and I'm going to jump into a game against Jund Hogak, which is not a matchup you would expect Counterbalance to shine in, but it turns out that in combination with this card, it works pretty well. So we're going to get right into that. All right, so this is the replay. I've already recorded through it, and then I'm going to pause at certain moments just to either highlight certain plays or my thoughts or like cantrip decisions. So I start the game. I knew my opponent was Hogak, just because I had played him earlier, previously. This hand seems fine. It has Force of Will, it has Spell Pierce for like Faithless Looting, things like that. I decided to leave a Spell Pierce on turn 1 in case they have Faithless Looting. They do end up having it, so I get rewarded there. That's nice. Then on my next turn, I have a pretty straightforward play. I'm going to play Astrolabe. I'm going to hold up Brainstorm. So they cast another Looting. It's a tough decision. In general, you don't want to Brainstorm on your opponent's turn without a fetch, but I really didn't want to pitch the field, and I didn't want to pitch the Brainstorm. So I decided to look for a different blue card. I see... Let me go back a little bit. So I see Counterbalance, Terminus, and Force off this Brainstorm. I decide to put Terminus and Counterbalance on top, and then pitch Force to Force. So all in all, it was a great Brainstorm. Opponent has Stitcher Supplier. to mill 3, they hit a bridge. It's relevant. I decide to play Counterbalance, and then I have the fetch. There's almost no chance I'm going to fetch away the Terminus, but it does give me the option. Opponent plays a Putrid Imp and another Supplier. Obviously, I'm not revealing the top card. It'd be really nice if they had a Hogak here, just because I get another card of their hand. So they didn't end up having it, but either way, Terminus is going to be good. Play the land. Now I have the fetch available. If the top card's bad, I can fetch it away. So my opponent casts a Looting, and then the top card is Vista. And so that one's kind of awkward. It is nice that I can play Precog Field next turn and then have Mystic Sanctuary available to set up Counterbalance or to put Terminus back on top. So there is some chance I want to keep this. But then when my opponent plays a 1-drop, I decide to fetch and try to hit a 1-drop. My thought process being, if I put a land on top, it's the same thing anyway, really. And if I hit a 1-drop, it's nice to counter it. So I do hit a 1-drop there. They have 1 card in hand, so I'm feeling in a pretty good spot. And then now again, I have a decision. I can either play Ponder to kind of set up the top of my library, or I can play Precognition Field. I decided to go with Field just because it is kind of mana intensive. And so I'm going to give my opponent kind of 1 free turn to go wild, but then I'll have Field online. And then I can really start taking over the game. So the flashback Looting, I don't reveal. This is a small, subtle synergy, is that since you always know the top card of your library, you don't have to blind reveal ever, which can make it harder to play around. You know, say you don't know the top card, just playing with Counterbalance in general, and they play a 1-drop, and then you flip over a 2. Well, now they know not to play 2s on their turn. And so you never have to get in that situation. It's very, very subtle, but it is a nice little bonus. My opponent has another 1-drop. That's fine. They attack him at 13. They have a bridge in the graveyard, but only 1. So this is the Ponder. There's an Astrolabe on top. You can't cast that off Precog Field, so I cast this Ponder. And sequencing cantrips with Field is definitely something that takes some getting used to. But what I decide to do is draw the land and leave the Ponder on top of my library so I can cast it again for free, basically. And this fetch land is nice because it represents a Mystic Sanctuary, so I'm happy to draw that. So this Ponder was Swords, Land, Astrolabe. I think it's a keep. What I decided to do is draw the Astrolabe, then it cantrips into the island, and then I have a Swords on top of my library. So I have a lot of, right now I have so much flexibility with what I want to do. I can either use the Swords on one of the creatures, or I can fetch it away and put Terminus on top. I can even Swords, fetch Sanctuary, put Swords on top, Swords again if I wanted to. The world is my oyster. They flashback Looting. It's nice to have a 1 on top. They go to attacks. I go to Swords, the feeder. My thought process being that, well, I don't want to go below 10 if I can avoid it, because it gives the Bloodghast haste. But also, if they don't sack anything to feeder, I was going to do the play I talked about where I put Swords on top of my library with Mystic Sanctuary and Swords the Bloodghast in combat. But if they do what they do, which is sack their stuff to get zombies, then what I do is I just fetch Sanctuary to put Terminus on top of my library. And I'm still above 10. So this worked out really... There was no way for it to work out poorly for me, but this did work out nicely. So Terminus is on top. I get to cast it. Unfortunately, there's a land underneath. But Precog Field lets me get rid of it. Unfortunately, there's another land underneath. Not much you can do about that. But it is nice to kind of when you have this extra mana, just turn through your library and get rid of the dead draws off the top. My opponent hits a very good looting. They discard 2 Bloodghasts and play another one. Although I guess this last card being a Bloodghast is a little bit better for me than it being a land. So I'll take it. Narset's on top. This one's a little awkward because you can't cast it with Precog Field, but at the same time, I don't want to get rid of it. Altar is a good and bad draw. Probably better for me than just a land would have been. So I'll take that. But it does represent, a big threat if they can get a board going. Either milling themselves or milling me. But hopefully Narset will be able to find some things. So I play Narset, tick down, clear the top card of my library. There's another land on top, but I get rid of it. And then I see a Brainstorm, which is really nice. I could cast it right now off the top of my library if I wanted to. I decided it was maybe a little better to wait and see what spell my opponent draws and what they want to cast into the Counterbalance. So I decided to wait. They draw another 2. I do want to try and counter this. Luckily, See the Truth is on top of my library, so I get to counter that. I'm trying to get rid of both altars eventually. So then this is the turn I kind of go off. So I cast Brainstorm off the top of my library. So that's an extra card. I put See the Truth on top. I cast that off the top of my library. That's 3 extra cards. So this turn, Precog Field drew 4 cards. I fetch a Sanctuary, put Council's Judgment on top of my library, cast it, and then Judgment the other thing. And now I have a 1 on top of my library for, any 1-drops they might draw. And also it's a sword, so if they had drawn a land for Bloodghast, I could have killed one of them. Now there's Entreat on top. This is my win con. That's why I don't minus Narset. Obviously, you want to keep it there. Make a small mistake here. I forgot my opponent had a Cabal Therapy in the graveyard. So I was supposed to just force the Gravecrawler. It ends up not mattering. I just draw the Entreat, reveal it to my opponent, and then make 5 Angels, and my opponent concedes. So that's the game. Game 2 was a little less eventful. My opponent just mulliganed very low and didn't really get a chance to play. But I think that this is definitely a pretty good highlight reel for the synergy between these 2 cards, and just the raw power of this card. It just slowly gains you advantage, while kind of providing exactly what you need in combination with Sanctuary. And just exiling lands off the top of your library is a big boon as well. So yeah, I've been enjoying this deck. I'm going to keep trying, playing it and tuning it. I might film a league with it in the future, but for now I just wanted to give you guys a quick highlight. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you soon. Bye.